The graduation address gives us the opportunity to hear from a distinguished member of our alumni community. And we're very fortunate today that the address will be delivered by Ms. Jane McAloon. Ms. McAloon has had an extensive career for over 25 years in a variety of industries such as natural resources, energy, infrastructure, transport and utility, in corporate and public sector leadership positions. Ms. McAloon is currently the National Chair of the Defence Reserve Support Council, reporting to the Minister for Defence Personnel. She's also a non-executive director of HealthScope, with private hospital and international pathology operations, integrated energy company Energy Australia, and listed sciences company Cogstate. She is a director on Bravery Trust, a charity providing urgent financial assistance to Australian defence personnel who have suffered injuries serving Australia. I now have very much pleasure in inviting Ms. Jane McAloon to deliver the graduation address.
Well, thank you very much. Acting Deputy Chancellor Professor Chris Davis, Provost and Senior Vice President Professor Mark Palange, Deans and Professorial Fellows, academic colleagues, graduates, how about that, families and friends. May I also pay my respects to the traditional owners of the land where we celebrate today, the Kulin Nations and their elders past and present. It's a great honour to be asked to address you today. This is a university that has produced many leading Australians like our Premier in Victoria, Daniel Andrews, Peter and Tim Costello, Margaret Jackson, my former boss, Simon Crean, and US-based film producer, Eva Orner. So when I was asked if I would like to speak today, my immediate reaction was, did all those well-known people say no and I was the only one left? Because up till then, I thought you had to be famous to give a graduation address. Then I got a bad case of nerves. I thought, I have to get up in front of several hundred students and their parents and families, and they all expect me to give them some insight that will change their lives. I have to say, the last meaningful thing I did was to get my motorbike licence 2 years ago. Then I thought, I can't quite remember who spoke at my graduation, let alone what they said, so the pressure was off. But what I do remember is that my graduation was a bittersweet moment. I was so excited to leave Monash and begin my working life, but I was also afraid. Like some of you here today, I thought I knew what I wanted to do. But I know some of you probably don't know what you want to do. Some of you know probably what you'd like to do, but are questioning whether that's the right choice. And some of you are worried about telling your parents that you really want to be a musician, not an accountant or an IT specialist. But don't worry, your parents are way more scared that you might want to move back home. Looking back at my own life, I don't think the most important question is, what am I going to do? I think the most important question is, who am I? A lot of great philosophers have spoken about this. Aristotle said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. And Oscar Wilde said, be yourself, everyone else is taken. But I think the most wisdom on this big question comes in music. Ask your parents who Harry Nilsson was. His claim to fame was a great song, Everybody's Talkin', that was in one of the great movies of all time, Midnight Cowboy. The song starts with, everybody's talking at me, I don't hear a word they're saying, only the echoes of my mind. For most of your life, you've had everyone talking at you, your parents, your teachers, your lecturers. Now is the time to start listening to the echoes of your mind. It's pretty tough today. We have all sorts of pressures to be someone. We're made to feel that if we aren't in a highly paid, responsible job by the time we're 30, we've failed. Well, that's just wrong. Life doesn't work that way. You have to listen to those echoes in your mind and to define yourself by your decisions. And to help you do that, I suggest your parents ask you who Sarah Bareilles is and play them her song Brave. Particularly the lyrics that go, "Let your words be anything but empty, say what you want to say, and let the words fall out. Honestly, I want to see you be brave." I've seen too many friends choose a path in life based on fear. I have been scared too many times along the way. But please, be brave. Let me tell you a bit about my journey. I grew up 3 kilometres away in Mount Waverley. I was the oldest of 5 kids. I went to a local Catholic girls' school, and then, with a lot of hard work, a lot of encouragement from my special parents and family, my dad is here today, just like your dads, and a bit of intelligence, I was accepted at Monash. I studied economics and law and spent the next 10 years working as a Monash economics tutor, a lawyer, and then in politics as a ministerial advisor. In 1987, I married Michael. 11 years later, when I was 34, Michael committed suicide. It was no accident, and it was no consolation that, had he been diagnosed with depression and treated, it may not have happened. It was a traumatic and grief-filled few years in what should have been the happiest time of my life. I felt like I let down the one person I shouldn't have in the worst and most permanent way. But 6 weeks after Michael died, I had a vivid, bright dream that I will never forget. Michael told me that I had given him the greatest gift, that he had a new heart and I was not to worry about him. It took a really long time to figure out what he meant by that, but today, almost 20 years later, I think I finally have. Like animals shedding their coat or their skin, I had been given a fresh shot at life, that I was the one with the new heart that was both resilient and open to the wonders and traumas of life all at the same time. That I was to put myself in other people's shoes and not stand in judgment. That I was meant to embody the lesson of how important it is to be yourself. No one more, no one less, just me, just you, and not to be so hard on myself. And through it all, I should try hard to believe in myself because others did and do. That fundamentally changed how I saw life. There are so many times after that moment I made bad decisions, hurt people, and got things wrong. But my new heart let me stand up, see things for what they are, and dust myself off again, apologise again, look upwards and forwards again, think about what should have been done better again, trust in others and myself again, and start walking and doing things again. So my story is about resilience, empathy, but most of all, being yourself. My story is also about discovering truths that I wished I had understood a little more when I was in my 20s, when I started work. Of course, we all do things our own way. That's the joy and frustration of life. And like me, you will no doubt learn lessons the hard way, by making mistakes and then recovering from them. But it makes us what we are. So fast forward to 2 weeks ago in Stockholm, Sweden. Jane, me, from Mount Waverley, Australia, was standing in front of some of the top military brass from 20 countries around the world. I presented on Australia's Defence Reserve Forces at a NATO conference on defence reserves and civilian employer engagement. While the audience was made up of some very powerful military officers, what struck me was how human these people are, how much they care about their fellow countrymen and women and their allies, and how the issues, no matter how big or small they are, come down to decisions people make which affect others. And they wear and own that responsibility personally. So how did I get there? And what about those truths I mentioned earlier? I have no background in defence, well, except watching Collingwood battle against really any other team this year. But here's what I've learned along the way. First, think big, aim high, but act small. That is, do things. Small things, small decisions every day. It's how things change, and it's how things get built. You may not appreciate this, but right now, you will determine the future. Not just your own future. You will stand on the shoulders of all the Monash alumni, and what you do or don't do will determine what Australia is like and maybe what the world is like in 20 years' time. An old boss of mine used to say, it's better to make a bad decision on a Monday than a good one on a Friday. So don't be afraid to fail. You'll learn more from failure than you will from success, but I wouldn't make it a habit. Your biggest risk isn't failing, it's getting too comfortable. And they don't have to be big decisions or big acts. Admiral Bill McRaven organised and oversaw Operation Neptune Spear, the special operations raid that led to the death of Osama bin Laden. His advice to graduating students at the University of Texas: if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed. At the end of that day, one task completed will turn into many tasks completed. Making your bed will reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. I reckon he's right. We need to believe that in small ways, every day, by persevering, by questioning, by trying, by being determined, by being creative and lateral, and by making decisions, we can change the world today. So think big, aim high, but act small, that is, do things. Small things, small decisions every day. Your decisions define you. Second, be kind, compassionate, and generous. You are here today graduating because of a lot of help from your parents, your teachers at school, your lecturers and tutors at Monash, and from your friends. You are here today because of we, not me. This afternoon is not just about you, it's about them. Earlier on, I mentioned Harry Nilsson and Sarah Bareilles, and later on, I promised to mention Bob Dylan. But right now, I want to mention a Greek philosopher called Plutarch. He said, and I don't think it was in a song, what we achieve inwardly will change outer reality. Basically, I think he was saying what you do and how you do it affects others. Thinking of others first and about what needs to be achieved not only improves the chances of that goal being achieved, it will give you the greatest pleasure in life to know that you have made others feel good about themselves and their contribution. Be determined and ambitious in what you do, but measure that equally with being thoughtful, compassionate, generous, and kind in how you do things, making time to spend with those who matter most to you. If you try to do this, it will make you a highly valued colleague at work. It will keep you open to challenge. It will make you aspire to achieve more for the team. And it will also make people want to be with you and in turn achieve things with you. And more importantly, take the time to help others. J.K. Rowling said, "We don't need magic to change the world. We carry all the power we need inside ourselves already." So think about success not in how high you rise or how much money you make, but in how many lives you can touch. Bravery Trust is a charity that provides urgent financial assistance to Australian Defence veterans injured serving Australia and in desperate need. I'm on the board because these people need us to take the time to help them when they have fallen to a place where they can't do that for themselves. We received this email the other day from Karen, a disabled mother of a young man, Kai, about his father, Daniel, who had suicided. I cannot find the perfect words to say how special Bravery Trust's work is. When Daniel told me he was rejoining the Navy when he brought Kai home one day, he told me that he had things set in place and Kai would be well looked after. I felt Daniel told me this as he knew I would be the only one to honour him and Kai. With Daniel suffering with PTSD, I choose only to remember him in better times. I did, however, often wonder what direction to keep taking. Bravery Trust has eased this burden, and those beautiful people have helped hold many people up when life, or others rather, try to beat them down. Bravery Trust has honoured Daniel when others did not. They have helped his little boy. Bravery Trust stepped in when Daniel no longer could. So think about others and give of yourself. Open your eyes to people doing it tough, to injustice. See the value in every single person's life. Be generous. Third and finally, work, love, health and play. Not work-life balance, that's way too simple. I didn't always live this way, and I didn't always recognise the importance of keeping a watchful eye on work, love, health and play. At BHP, I spent 9 years working almost around the clock and travelling away internationally from home a lot. I was dialed right up on work, a bit on health, but I had really forgotten those I loved, and I hardly ever played. While professionally, BHP positively changed my working life, when I look back on all of those years, I know I would have been more effective at my job had I loved and played more. Adam Grant is Professor of Management and Psychology at Wharton University. He is ranked as one of the world's most influential management thinkers. After years and years of study, his research shows one important conclusion: that living a life of love and compassion is the true path to success and contentment. So let me end here with Bob Dylan before I get in the way of you and free champagne. Bob wrote this song for his son, and let me read the lyrics to you. May you grow up to be righteous. May you grow up to be true. May you always know the truth and see the lights surrounding you. May you always be courageous, stand upright and be strong. May you stay forever young. Thank you.